food poisoning is fun.
It sure is a banquet for the senses, isn't it?
That is certainly one way of putting it. Anyway, greetings and felicitations, assorted children of the internet. I'm the Logician, joined once again by MLoreley.
Yeah, for some reason I keep showing up here.
Yeah, funny that. I don't know how you got the passcode.
Again.
Yeah, life finds a way, I suppose.
I suppose that's kind of a definition of our friendship, isn't it? Life finds a way.
Is that what we're calling it?
Sure. That's what I'm calling it. You better if you know
would.
what's good for you.
Anyway, we're going to be doing another reaction stream, as the name of the stream more than likely implies. We're going to be doing some more Jim Henson Hour, with potentially some other stuff later on if we have the time, which, given how much we tend to run our mouths off for no really legitimately good reason, we'll leave that up to the fates to decide.
Well, I mean, it's entirely within our control to actually meter ourselves, but we don't do that. So
Is it, though?
It is within our control to do that. We could, in fact, not go on so many tangents.
Is it actually, though? Oh, shit.
Okay. Hey!
Well, hey, thank you, Violet, for the gifted sub. That is
very sweet. Thank you.
Genuinely
I say
appreciated.
I'm saying thank you on behalf of the cybernetic pink eye over here.
Yes. God, you sounded so like, on behalf of the cybernetic pink eyes.
Wow. Thanks for calling me old, buddy.
As if I'm any better.
You're younger than me.
Look, we're both past 30. Like, we're by the internet's terms, we are both hags.
No.
Listen, ask any Zoomer, they will tell you the same.
There's a specific... Never mind.
Yes, I'm sure. Anyway...
There's a specific use for the word hag, and it ain't you!
Uh-huh.
You're not a hag. You're not a witch. You have multiple witch friends, but you are not one of us.
I may not be a witch myself, but I inadvertently started a coven, which is just about as bad.
That's not... Never mind.
Anyway... Me being the center of the Triforce aside, I think it's time we got to the actual meat and potatoes of this stream, before any more shenanigans start up.
Well, that might be the source of your food poisoning, so...
You know what?
I don't think it was because I didn't get food poisoning.
I was gonna say, like, if nothing else, I can just blame you as a default.
Hey! Hey! Don't blame me because you eat weird shit.
You mean shit with flavor?
Excuse me?
Anyway.
You ate that crock pot.
I did in fact eat the crock pot, and now I am suffering for it.
I don't know that it was the crock pot because, again, I didn't actually get sick from it.
I mean, that says more about your magic immunity than mine.
What the fuck do you mean? I'm sick all the time!
You know, I should have noticed upon closer inspection that it was more of a cauldron than a crock pot, now that I'm thinking about it.
My god.
Anyway, moving right along, footloose and fancy-free.
Mm-hmm.
Also, genuinely, thank you very much, Violet. It is much appreciated.
Yeah.
If you have
and I mean,
to
here's
deal
the nice
with it,
thing
Laura,
is
so
that...
do you. Yeah, absolutely.
Here's the thing, Silver. You also now don't have to worry about ads, which have been, unfortunately, fairly obnoxious. Thankfully, now I'm subscribed. I'm paying for the convenience of not having ads schlommed in my face every 15 seconds.
Never say schlommed again.
I will say schlommed as many times as I want to.
We've already collectively destroyed the English language enough as it is without your contributions.
Oh, wow!
And that's saying something given that you're an English major.
I was going to say, I have the right to deconstruct the language as many times as I want to. Fuck you.
I mean, alchemic reactions being what they are. Also, to answer your question, Violet, yes, we are roommates.
Oh my god, we're roommates.
Oh my god, we're roommates. Cool is definitely a word for it.
Uh-huh. It's a word.
My word.
I mean, it is fairly cold around here right now.
Uh-huh. Sounds like a lot of fun, in a sense, when we're not at each other's collective throat.
It is a lot of fun.
Yes.
There's just a lot of other things along the way.
Oh, absolutely. Speaking
At
of...
least we can't say that it's boring.
Yeah. One of those things being how we perpetually find ourselves on top of soapboxes talking about things that really don't need all that much significant elaboration.
Well, I think that they do. I would argue that there's a reason we both enjoy that. You know, why the fact that critics have been a thing since media has ever been a thing.
Absolutely, I entirely agree. Unfortunately, the grand majority of people don't seem to, which is why my series is called In My Unpopular Opinion.
Which you have yet to actually voice a truly unpopular... Well, outside of Mega ain't all that.
Well, that
Mega
and
Evolution
also
ain't all that.
that, as well as apparently my take on the water-type gym leader of Black 2 White 2 wearing blackface. Also,
Well, that sounds like a skill
Rayquaza.
issue.
I'm just putting that out
yeah.
there, Rayquaza. If you know, you know.
I actually am not sure. Regardless.
I digress. It's time to play the music. It's time to light the lights. It's time to start a migraine with the Not Muppet Show tonight. I'm sure I could have come up with something more clever if I had invested more brain cells in it. Anyway.
It's okay.
Yes.
And welcome
You
to
need
tonight's
rest.
show.
Permit my cuz? For you.
Oh, well, that's very nice of you, Leon, but everything's booked for tonight. The show is complete.
Except here. Boy, this lady has a set of pipes you wouldn't believe.
Leon, I've got all the singers I need.
I don't
Digit,
wanna see her
roll the
pipes.
opening.
John,
Nope.
just show 'em what you can do, honey.
What?
Oh, look, it's me in the
Okay.
shower.
Hey. You can't go that high.
Well, I mean,
Actually,
I was going to say, given my falsetto.
if you stub your toe, maybe.
I mean,
but-
let me even just back up from the mic a little bit. Oh, never mind. Maybe not so much.
But I'm actually a soprano.
Yeah, no, it's also been many, many years since I've dipped into the falsetto.
And you've also not been feeling well for the last few days in
Yeah,
ways
funny
that would
that.
actually affect your ability to hit higher notes. So,
You know, it's almost as if my food dissolving my vocal cords might have an effect on how high I'm able to sing.
you know, it might. But right out the gate, I love that we are immediately dealing with people who actually don't know what opera is.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I love how easily it gets made fun of in pop media. Like, fuck you, it's good. Anyway.
It can be. But, I mean, that's just it. Like, I guess that does stand to reason we're already getting on our soapboxes. But why is it that, like, whenever people mention opera, the default that everyone thinks of is fucking, like, the Ride of the Valkyries with the fucking, like, Viking helmets, which even aren't historically accurate. Vikings never wore helmets like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's because it's one of the more infamous... I mean, there's a reason why the Ride of the Valkyries has withstood the test of time. I will say that that's, like, I guess the big default, but there's a fucking Sad Clown.
Oh, yeah,
That's
Pagliacci.
another one. Yep.
Ridi Pagliacci. It's
Anyway.
always sad clown or woman in Viking helmet riding atop a fat horse.
I mean, I would love to see these stereotypes around opera shift a little bit more. I mean, okay, here's the thing. Is it over the top? Yes. That's the point. It needs to be over the top. Otherwise, it's not opera.
You know, not gonna lie, even just talking about this makes me very tempted for us to do a reaction of the Marx Brothers' A Night at the Opera.
Oh, God.
Like, the thing is, I'm not sure how badly I would get slammed with copyright. I mean, we've been getting by relatively fine so far.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
that's because most of what we've been reacting to is, readily available on YouTube.
True.
I
Which
mean,
also then begs the question, what if we reacted to Kitchen Nightmares at some point?
oh, Jesus fucking Christ.
I mean, we've seen it, but...
We have. It's
Oh
still...
god, there's the new series, though.
What do you mean, new series?
You didn't know?
I unfortunately do not have my finger on the pulse of Gordon Ramsay's ego stroking, no.
Yeah, they tried to do a reboot of Kitchen Nightmares.
Oh, Jesus fuck.
And it flopped horribly because they didn't actually understand what made the original series good. They just thought, well, if we follow what we think the formula is...
Yeah,
I love the original Kitchen Nightmares. I don't actually want to see, but I feel like that in itself is incentive to make it perfect for reactions, except that I don't think we can do that because of copyright stuff. So.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, whenever people mention, like, Kitchen Nightmares, I always think of that one bit from Game Grumps where Aaron says, like, I've always wanted to see a version of Kitchen Nightmares, but it's just, like, the host going to, like, good restaurants and commenting how good the food is. And I keep thinking, yeah, that show already exists. It's called Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, I'm a little biased in that Guy Fieri was born, or at least, born and raised not too terribly far away from where I spent a good chunk of my life living, but,
True.
Yeah.
Anyway,
back to,
this.
cultural appropriation.
Does this mean I don't get the job?
Of course.
I mean, of course. I mean, here's the thing. Those are pretty impressive vocals.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, just had to turn that down a little bit because it was fairly loud.
Yeah.
Ah, my lord.
Hopefully there is a balance between our audio and the show.
Yep. Feel free to correct us on this, by the way, everyone in chat.
Fucking
It's so 80s.
late 80s music is so...
Good evening and welcome.
Oh, it's
to
a
our-
dog.
Yep.
Wait a second, you're not the lion.
No, I'm the dog. I work with the storyteller.
Oh, yeah. That is specifically the dog from that John Hurt show, the storyteller.
Oh my god. And I love how, I mean, again, on seeing this, I think of, like, Labyrinth and other, Jim Henson, like, aided productions.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
There is a style to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to describe, I think. Maybe it's not impossible, but...
It's like, it's got enough of that sense of, like, you know what this is supposed to be, and it looks very similar to it, but sometimes you have to take a second glance to realize, oh no, this is, like, human operated. But it's not to that extent where it delves into that, like, uncanny valley territory.
Well, it does get a little bit into the uncanny valley territory. Yeah. It depends on the context, as always, but it's interesting that I look at this and I see elements, like I brought up Labyrinth, but, like, anytime, or Dark Crystal is another example.
Oh, fair.
There's something about the way that they do the puppetry, the way that they design the puppetry, that has a very distinct Jim Henson style.
Yeah. And that's just it. Maybe for me it doesn't trigger the uncanny because, like, these are inhuman characters and, like, creatures that are being depicted. I feel like if this were more like... I feel like I more get that when it comes to, like, humanoid puppets and masks and stuff. Like, when we watched The Giant, for example, that sort of set it off for me. But,
yeah. And that definitely makes sense. When I say, like, the uncanny valley, it's not necessarily in the sense of, like, this is too close to humanity. I don't see it as uncanny valley. I don't feel like it treads too close to that. It's more just that stylistically, something about it.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fair.
Feels like, and I'm trying to think of the way to word this. It feels like you're opening a storybook and seeing that come to life.
Yeah, you definitely expressed that with the last, specifically the last special we saw with the storyteller, the Giant story.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's definitely an apt description, given that it is meant to, like, show this. And not to say that any sort of show geared towards children or anything that has a sort of storybook element of, narrative has to be geared towards children so much as it is like this is a way to convey these ideas in a way that like doesn't necessarily pull the emotional punches, but still gets it across in like a good balance of like reaching the depths of a message without getting overly articulate about them.
Mm-hmm. Also, thank you for tuning in then, Violet. I hope that you're able to get plenty of rest.
Absolutely.
And it was very sweet of you to come in and gift a sub as part of that.
Genuinely, thank you very much, Violet. And I hope you have a good rest of your evening.
Yeah, take care.
Yeah. All right, so shall we get back to Scraps McGee over here?
We are just over 1 minute into the episode, and we've been talking for 16.
Yeah, I mean, same as it ever was.
Same as it. I don't think we're at risk of needing additional material tonight.
No, I mean, we'll see.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Later on, the storyteller is going to tell an eerie tale called The Soldier and Death.
Is he cheating? Well, I am.
Called the what?
The Soldier and Death.
Me too.
Oh.
Deal again.
Certainly. And he did. And he won.
That was eerie.
So listen, where's the lion?
Your frog got him a job in front of the public library.
Well, that's strange. Kermit, is everything okay? Don't worry, Jim. Except for a small monitor problem, I got everything under control. Our guest stars are...
Shut up. Shut the fuck up.
What?
Okay, so
Oh.
So for the uninitiated, before stream tonight, one of my monitors just stopped working. And so I had to set up a replacement. So once again, your curse of sitcom timing has carried over.
I mean, I feel like it's just your curse at this point.
I guess so.
You have developed proxy timing curse?
I suppose I have, which is kind of the story of my life at this point. Anyway, back to Kermit having seen better days here.
Bear is going to pay a visit to the Today Show.
So, Chief, how did this happen?
Well, I'll show you. Instant replay. See, here I am doing my introduction, and then Leon shows up with this woman, and she went...
Yep, that'll do it.
It's a little flat.
Yep.
The Jim Henson Hour will return after these messages.
After what messages?
I'm sorry, but I had to double take there for a second because I saw the casting of the secretary character as Fran Brill, and unfortunately I've only known one other like notable actor with the first name Fran, and sort of had to exercise the thought from my mind that she could be involved here.
Oh.
But then again, given all these celebrity hosts that we've been seeing pop up on this show,
Who are you thinking?
Fran Drescher.
Oh, okay.
Like, what other
See-
famous actors do you know with the first name Fran?
I mean, that was the one that my mind immediately went to, too, but I was just checking to make sure.
Yeah.
Fran Drescher's got one of those weird blends of, like... She's a weird blend. That's
Yeah,
what she
we'll
is.
leave it at that, for the sake of being civil.
Her voice isn't that annoying, but her personality can be sometimes.
Oh yeah, definitely. So who have we got tonight? Oh, interesting. Oh my god.
Gene Foley and the Nylons?
well, Gonzo, I don't really need any more acts.
But this is more than an act. This is an opening number.
But I've already got a great opening number. Hey, Digit, cue the nylons.
Well, something tells me we're going to want to put the royalty-free music over this. Just for the...
We'll see.
Yeah. Well, let's just...
Well, let's let them actually get started. If they do actually sing, like actually start putting on a performance,
I mean,
we probably will.
Yeah. Also, I just love little corner gonzo there.
Little corner gonzo.
Little corner gonzo. Sleep paralysis demon. Coming
Stocking
for
up
your
the
chickens
nylons.
and not in good ways.
Not the way you want.
Nope. You know, West Side Story looks a little different than I remember.
This is gonna be a fucking Oweema way. Yep.
Yep. So do we want to put the royalty free over this? I'm going to make the executive decision here. Alright, well. I mean, again, it... God, even the outfits here are like...
I know.
A time capsule in and of
Late
themselves.
80s.
Yeah.
Like, even specifically late 80s.
Yeah.
Like, these are even close to, like, the member jackets.
Oh, God, you're not even
that were
wrong.
popular around that time.
Yeah.
Impressive falsetto.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've got it muted.
Shame that you
on
guys
my
can't
end.
hear it.
Yeah. Again, just for the sake of, like, avoiding any unnecessary issues.
Who are they getting to do the fucking soprano, though?
I don't know. Maybe it's the line.
You know, the one during the chorus.
Yeah. And even given, like, the key that I heard them starting in, it's higher than usual.
Oh, yeah. It's an incredible performance.
Oh, yeah. Like, the inclusion of the lion just seems unnecessary, but that's sort of what adds to, like, the... Okay, we got this thing. We gotta think of some way to integrate this with Jim Henson, so let's have them film in New York. We'll have the lion sitting in for one of the statues in front of the library.
This is a pretty good take on this.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, is this gonna be the fucking...
This feels like something that would be in an episode of, I don't know. I was about to say Reading Rainbow, but Reading Rainbow didn't really have any musical numbers. Oh my god, that shirt. Oh my god, the suit.
Yeah. Well, definitely late 80s again.
Yeah, you're not wrong. My god. What was it about the 80s and just, like, the pure white suits?
Well, that would have also been, like, disco-era stuff as well.
God, did disco even carry it? Because I remember, like, it was starting to peter out within, like, the late 70s, if I'm not mistaken, but...
No, disco was 70s going into 80s.
Oh, fair enough. Alright, well...
It was a specific snapshot, but it was a very influential snapshot of history.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. Alright, well, thank you, Kevin MacLeod, for your intervention there on my end. Now, back to more shenanigans with Kermit and co. here.
I knew it. Number?
Kermit,
Gonzo, the answer is no.
at least let me tell you about this great new chicken act.
No!
It's the definitive roller poultry version of The Sound of Music.
Roller poultry?
I'm glad you asked.
I didn't
No.
ask. Gonzo.
You did technically ask, Kermit.
Chicken. Now, wait a minute.
Yes.
Just a second.
Like we rehearsed.
Hold it!
And this is why Kermit never
Did
asserts
you?
himself.
Do we have
Yeah.
anything that isn't on roller skates? I can't hear you, Kermit. I'm on roller skates. Did you?
You're not a chicken.
I mean, listen.
If he is a chicken, that raises questions.
I mean... I was trying to think of some way to tie that to the 3 kobolds in a trench coat bit, but I suppose I'm not in the right creative mindset for that, considering we're not going to have any more D&D for the rest of the month.
For the rest of the year.
Yeah. for
That's just how it works out sometimes.
Yeah, for context, Laura and I both engage in a shared D&D campaigns every Sunday, and unfortunately, because of all the family and holiday planning going on amongst all of our mutuals in those campaigns, we're probably not going to be seeing any more tabletop for the rest of the year, which normally drives us both, or at least me, into a sense of D&D withdrawal. So it's going to be hard times coming.
You know, to that effect, we might put something like oh god. So I was even thinking initially the original D&D cartoon.
Oh god, I mean that's not the
What
worst
if-
idea.
What if we reacted though to the Dragonlance movie?
Oh my god.
Now that you know what's going on.
Yeah, for the uninitiated, Dragonlance was a series of books written in the 80s following an expansive D&D campaign by the original author and his friends around the 70s, which is...
Thors. They definitely were
Yeah.
both pretty responsible for the writing.
But, yes, like, much in the same way that The Legend of Vox Machina is an animated adaptation of a D&D campaign played by Matt Mercer and the rest of the cast of Critical Role, Dragonlance was very much the same, in that it was a series of novels based off of a shared D&D campaign by the original authors. And before I had read even one page of the original series of novels, Lore showed me the animated adaptation of what was supposed to be the first book.
They fucked it up, though.
And I did not understand at the time how badly they'd fucked it up until now. So
yeah,
that might be something to throw on the table.
That might be something. I don't think they're going to care about copyright for that thing. It flopped so badly.
Probably, and I feel like the original D&D cartoon would also be a good one to throw on the table. Like, if nothing else, then to, like, list down... What was the list of, like, classes they had? Like, warrior.
Acrobat.
is a warrior, magician, like, knight, and acrobat.
That was actually a D&D class, though.
Was acrobat an original class?
I think so. I feel like it was.
I feel, because, like, I've never heard, like, and then again, I got introduced to D&D at 3rd edition, so I came in a little late to the party,
Same,
circa 2008.
You know what? I'm gonna even do a quick fucking search.
Yes. As we leave, Kermit pining for release in the pile of poultry over here.
The cartoon that helped create 3 classes.
Oh my god.
I mean, they've got Acrobat as a 5th edition thing.
Do they?
Yeah, but I guess it was not an actual, like, class in D&D,
Yeah,
but
I
even
didn't think
so. I mean, it's still fucking hilarious.
Oh yeah, it is. Just like that one dude who, like, was just overly enthusiastic about rock climbing in high school.
God.
But yeah, I feel like that's worth considering. There's, there's a fair number of gimmicky shows I'm considering for Time Capsule TV. Anyway, back to this particular one.
Oh, just cue the telethon.
Right. Oh, yeah. Okay. This is the 78th hour of the...
God, remember when telethons were a thing?
Don't.
I feel like for the sake of, like, keeping up our role as cultural anthropologists here, we kind of have to dip into this.
So, I don't know if they're, like, wholly out, you know, in terms of telethons. Although, I think nowadays it's more like Kickstarters and GoFundMes, which is a much less publicly televised thing.
Yeah.
I think that there are still, I don't know necessarily about fundraisers, but a lot of fundraising is actually done very quietly online nowadays.
Yeah, this was essentially a practice put into place by specifically local TV stations, more often than not, where you would have a number of people brought on specifically for the purpose of answering phones for anyone who would call in to make charitable donations to a specific cause, and to incentivize those donations. The hosts / host of the program would essentially present a series of acts in the format of a variety show. Basically, in the same sense that you have street performers who will like play music or do a specific act so you can like throw money into their guitar case or whatever. It was essentially the same principle where you would have people from the local community, more often with the local TV stations, putting on performances, recorded and televised live to incentivize people to call in and make donations to that cause. As Lorelei said, this is not so commonly practiced anymore, at least not to the extent it was back in the day, TM. It's long since been sort of replaced with GoFundMes and other online methods through which to raise money. But, yeah, it would often, at least around the time we remember them being a thing, have these sort of gaudy setups with, like, curtains in the background, the panel of people actively sat next to telephones. So just to give some historical context for what we are about to see here.
And you would always have a host with varying personalities. Usually they tried to put someone who could at least give off the sympathetic energy. It's just like, remember, your donations are going to an incredibly important cause.
Absolutely.
And all of that. And so immediately out the gate, we are getting this personality as the host of one of these.
Yeah, and this was back in the day before we had slow motion black and white footage of sad dogs with In the Arms of an Angel being played over it.
God. It was kind of the equivalent, though.
It was essentially, yes. Anyway.
Let's see how we're doing. Need more. Well, as you can see...
I see we have a cameo by Godzilla over there on the left.
Oh.
More money!
Okay, Trump.
Yeah.
Because we won it! What's your money?
I mean, by the way, pause.
Yeah.
I'm not joking.
Oh, yeah.
In the 80s and into the 90s, Trump was literally held up as the example of, like, literally one of the worst human beings to have ever been born.
Oh, yes.
He was the slimy corporate executive who made bad deals that always flopped and, like, did the hand-wringing evil thing. If you watch old movies and cartoons around this time, if you ever saw that stereotype of the guy in the fucking blazer who was just literally the hand-wringing give me more money, that was literally a parody of Trump. Even down to the Back to the Future.
I was going to say, Future Biff was literally modeled out after Trump.
Well, so was President Biff.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, even regardless of the incarnation, and it's more just showing, like, what happens when he's in power versus when he's not. But, like, no, he was literally fucking Trump.
Yeah.
That's just who he is/was.
Yeah, and, like, you need to bring on someone really fucking infamously evil. Like, if you're gonna have someone, like, serve as a foil to Vince McFucking-Man in Attitude Era WWF, which they did on multiple occasions. They had an ongoing rivalry between the two. And if you know anything about how horrid a human being Vince McMahon is, then you know what we're talking about.
Yeah, so, like I said, there's a reason why he was always, like, parodied as the most evil, vile fucking human being. And now we all know. Like, we kind of knew already,
Well,
but
we'd
people,
like
for
to think
some
we
reason...
all know.
Well, no, people know, and that's what they want. And that's the problem.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're getting into political talk here, but I'm
Oh,
just
no,
saying...
us political?
I know, right? But that's just it. There's a reason why we didn't think he was going to win in 2016. There's a reason why we didn't think that we didn't take it seriously until he actually fucking won. And now,
Yeah.
well, now we are where we are.
We
Let's
are
see
where
how it
we
goes
are,
from
and that's
there.
all where we are.
Anyway, so back to this scuzz bucket,
Hell of a fucking timeline I landed in this time.
right?
Give it to us. We'll come around and stick a piano.
Okay, so you have to understand, because of the occasional hiccups that happen with the playback on my end, all I heard was like, if you don't give us money, we'll stick a piano! I mean, that's arguably more horrible than anything I could even, like, they won't tell you where, they're just gonna stick a piano.
Up your nose,
Yeah,
they
just
said.
like, we'll leave it to your imagination where. My word.
Hey, Digit, see?
Yes, sir. Good.
You're tuned into the Time Channel.
Oh my god, the plaid. The full
Oh my
plaid
God.
suits with that hair.
And the hair, I was gonna say.
This is very, like, late 70s, mid 80s newscasting.
Oh, yeah.
Including the oversaturation of beige.
Brown. The 80s were so much more brown than, like, the neon cartoons would have you believe.
Oh god, yeah. Yeah. Then again, looking at my model, I'm not exactly free from that sin myself.
I mean, you've got pops of color.
I mean, here and there. I'm largely muted forest colors.
Which is not bad, and still better than brown on brown on brown.
Yeah, I mean, one would have hoped that would have helped me, stand out a bit less hiding out in the forest, but, everyone under the fucking sun keeps finding me.
All the time. We have late afternoon over the Pacific coast turning into evening later. And later...
The 90s retconned the 80s into being neon, you know?
Yes.
Also,
No, that's
thank you-
actually what happened.
Yeah, thank you for joining us, Alex. It's always a pleasure.
Hi.
Ah, my word.
Tonight, associated with 3 in the morning over here should give way to breakfast tomorrow. And the forecast for tomorrow, 3:15 in St. Louis. In Hollywood, lunch will last all day. And in Ottawa, it'll be 1956.
See, that's just the story of my fucking life, once again. Just continuous sporadic time loops.
It was just... Always brunch. And in Ottawa, it'll be the 1950s.
Yeah, let's just delve back into that a little bit, if I may.
Yeah, please.
Tuned into the Time Channel all the time, all the time.
Oh, I see.
We have over the Pacific coast turning into evening later. And later tonight, the darkness associated with 3 in the morning over here should give way to breakfast time by early tomorrow. And the forecast for tomorrow, 3:15 in St. Louis. In Hollywood, lunch will last all day. And in Ottawa, it'll be 1956.
There you go.
You know?
It'll be 1956.
56. So
A nice little...
Go ahead.
I always love those little jabs of like, yes, time zones. And then like they give you an example of hours. And then like anytime there's some backwards laws or behaviors at play. And these people are apparently in the 1950s.
I mean, once again, that would explain the lack of color. Also, Alex says, this humor is so bad, no wonder Kid Me absorbed it like a sponge. Well, it's less that it's bad and more that it's very dry.
It's dry, and it's not bad. These are dad jokes sprinkled with rainbow sprinkles.
Yeah, or Jimmy's, depending on your time zone.
Yeah, like the 1950s.
God. Not gonna lie. Like, people like to gussy up the 1950s as a simpler time, which they really fucking weren't. And, like, things were easier to digest, which they also really weren't, given the overabundance of lead and everything. But, I have always at least wanted to try to find a 1950s-style diner so I could try one of those, like, fresh seltzer water and syrup sodas with, like, a fresh scoop of, like, vanilla ice cream. I mean, we had something similar in a town I lived in for a good number of years, but then that sort of, in order to bring in more people, and they started serving beer. And as you can imagine, once you start serving alcohol anywhere, it attracts an entirely different group of people there.
Yeah.
And to give you an idea, I will not name names when it comes to, like, the town I grew up in, but I will say this much. To give you a good idea of, like, the expectations of its youth growing up, the high school I attended as a child was surrounded by 3 different institutions. A cemetery, a prison, and a Planned Parenthood center. As if to say, you are going to wind up in one of these 3 places. So as you can imagine, I got the hell out of Dodge as soon as I could.
I mean, you have a soda machine.
I do, but I haven't used it in ages. I really should tap into it again.
I was gonna say, if you want to make yourself a 1950s era soda,
True enough.
you have the ability.
I mean, hopefully the
Perhaps.
CO2 tanks are still, intact.
And if not, we can try getting more.
That's true. Anyway, back to this painful reminder of where we came from. Yeah, and egg cream is just chocolate syrup and salsa. See, can I just go on another brief tangent before we continue?
No!
One of my pet peeves when it comes to anything food related is when the name of the food includes ingredients that are not a predominant part of it. Like, egg cream. Where's the egg? Like egg rolls. There's no, egg inside of the roll.
Interestingly enough, Cadbury cream eggs don't fall under that because they are egg-shaped and they do describe themselves as being cream.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. But, just when you have, a food, I don't know, chicken parmesan. That's mozzarella on top. Where's the parmesan?
I mean, you can add parmesan.
You can, but it's not the most notable cheese at play there. It's fucking mozzarella. I don't know, little things like that piss me off to an unreasonable extent.
Well, we do know how much you like cheesy media.
I do at that. Anyway.
Night.
You want to give, or do we tie your ears in a bow?
Well,
oh, look, it's
okay.
SAG-AFTRA.
Yeah.
Listen, that joke is probably going to age very poorly, but I do not fucking care. This is already a time capsule.
Run by Fran Drescher, by the way.
Yeah. So it all comes together.
I have the time.
Okay.
The monster thaw.
Man, the monster fuckers are eating good today.
I just realized I think this puppet is a fucking griffin.
You might be right. I know I've seen this particular Muppet show up in a number of different Jim Henson productions as a background character. He's always the sort of, nondescript, beaked mammalian creature.
Mm-hmm. But you could just be a monster, but also be really fucking funny.
I mean, the color coding is not helping.
No, it's not.
Now, let's take a look at the phone bank and see how our volunteers are doing.
Hello, is this the late Mr. George Hoskins? Or can you send us $20 by tomorrow?
Yes, to save any unnecessary unpleasantness, call us and pledge at 1-800-555-STOP-YOU! Yeah!
Now, I have to ask, when did the whole 555 thing start when it comes to, fictional phone numbers? Because, there had to be an actual issue popping up when people were trying to call phone numbers in movies and TV shows.
Probably. I'm not entirely sure, but yes, that's why specifically Area 555 code is not a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know when it specifically started, but...
Yeah, because it feels like it started at around this era, but then again, that was also the era where I became cognizant, so it doesn't really say much.
Hey. Oh, well, working again, Chief.
Okay. Boy, those monsters get everywhere. Hey, that looks like New York City. Fozzie, how's New York?
Oh, Kermit, hi. Oh, it's great. Oh, yeah, I've come to the Big Apple to showcase my comic appeal.
Yes?
Okay, so I just looked this up. The real reason Hollywood uses 555 phone numbers. Decades ago, phone numbers were very different. For example, you could ask the operator for Pennsylvania, 6500. Words were replaced with digits that corresponded to the first two letters of the word. So PE became 6500, became blah, blah, blah. It worked fine until it came to the 5 key, which corresponded to the letters J, K, and L. Not many major cities began with those combination of letters. So the phone companies kept 555 numbers for internal use only.
Huh.
555-1212 became the number for directory assistance.
Interesting.
When movies and TV shows began using phone numbers more frequently in their plot lines, people who actually owned those numbers started to complain that they were getting too many prank phone calls. So the phone companies reserved 555-0100 through 555-0199 for fictional use. Some films as far back as the early 60s used the 555 prefix.
Okay.
In the mid-70s, the running joke on the Rockford Files was that every episode began with a private eye, Jim Rockford getting a message on his answering service from someone chasing him for money. A close-up of his phone revealed his number, 555-2368. So, even going back to the 60s.
I mean, that absolutely tracks, all things considered. My word. Well, the more you know.
So, there you go.
Yeah.
This show can be educational, maybe.
Apple?
Oh, yeah.
Get it? Apple, appeal. Ah!
Same old Fozzie, same old jokes.
Oh, no, Kermit, you're wrong. I have chosen a new career with real artistic integrity.
Oh? And what career might that be?
I am going to be a TV weatherman.
A TV weatherman?
Yeah.
Fozzie, are you sure?
Of course, Kermit. It is time to move on. It's time to leave behind the funny nose and
Moving
glasses.
right along.
Time to say goodbye to the childish whoopee cushion and, of course, the tired old banana peel. Kermit, I am now on my way to NBC headquarters to meet Willard Scott. Yes, wish me luck. Yeah!
You know?
You know?
Who wants to tell Fozzie that meteorology is all but a pseudoscience at this point?
I mean, it used to be a lot more predictable, but then...
Yeah. Then we came into the picture.
Change. Well, even then, it was the industrial age that largely shaped the situation we're in.
Oh, yeah.
If it's on NPC, that will never happen.
Yeah, no, never, ever. But, I mean, to the point where, like, the Gothic Cathedral in Rouen, France, is still fucking stained black from the fumes of the Industrial Revolution.
Oh, yeah.
I know this because I paid that chapel a visit back in, 2014, maybe?
Something like that.
It was around that time, but gorgeous, gorgeous city. Which I'll I'll spare you another immediate tangent for the time being, but yeah, no, it's the weather is not what it used to be.
It really isn't.
So honestly, yeah, I feel like for all intents and purposes, Fozzie, you've stumbled upon the perfect career for yourself, because it's also become a fucking joke.
I was gonna say, you know what? Actually, the transition from comedian to meteorologist is not actually that far a jump.
I even think of that one, like, meteorologist who was on, like, a local, not local as in here, but on one of those, like, smaller news stations where he's, like, where he's pointing at the map and it moved a little bit. Wait, this is a touch screen? And he just started playing with it.
Okay, but I also have to pop in. Hang on.
Also, most weather science is poorly funded. Yeah, that's why we have such little understanding of it.
Let me see. Okay, yeah, I think this is... I'm not going to go to the Fox website.
Okay.
I think
let's not say we didn't.
Well, that's the problem, is that I think, unfortunately, it is only Fox.
Okay.
But in the watch together, I don't necessarily want us to lose our place.
Well, we're at 9:08 currently, if you want to just jot that down.
9:08, okay. Yep. And then I have... How do I add to the watch together?
So you see the little search bar at the top?
Mm-hmm.
What you're going to do is put the link to the video in there, and then click the video when it comes up in search results.
Oh, okay. That's... Okay. So there's this one.
All right, let's see. To account for a bigger screen here.
We'll bring you on into the temps, and we're all... Wow, 750 degrees in
Oh,
Hilo
yes.
Bend right now. and 1,270 in Ahwatukee. Now I'm not authorized to evacuate Ahwatukee, but this temperature seems pretty high.
Cave Creek is real.
Yeah, Cave Creek, Fountain Hills, they don't look good either. And frankly, Wickenburg is a total loss. You might as well just get out of anywhere along this 60 years. Very warm. Surprise is starting to heat up as well at 1,300 degrees. So again, the safe
I'm sorry,
spot
but
No, you're fine. You're fine.
the phrasing of surprise is starting to heat up at 1350.
Yeah. It's like that's where steel starts to melt.
Oh, no. That's the Cave Creek one.
Oh, yeah.
Hang on, though.
Scottsdale is doing okay so far, but you know, you're sort of surrounded by some pretty intense heat. So, you know, again, I'm not your dad, but I would get out while you still can. I think steel boils at about this temperature, so Cave Creek, there's probably nothing left up there right now.
I mean, that's just it. Like, as a meteorologist as well as a stand-up comedian, you have to have pretty quick thinking when it comes to unexpected hurdles to jump over.
But even just, like... he noticed at the very last second that Gila Bend is at 750.
You know?
Okay, wow, 750 degrees.
And then it gets to this...
He's got the stanky leg here.
You're just looking around. I'm sorry, this is one of those clips that is always going to make me fucking laugh.
Oh, you are valid as fuck.
And I've lived in Arizona, and I gotta tell you, this is not that much of an exaggeration.
Yeah. I mean...
and 1,270 in Ahwatukee.
As you do.
There's something, the few phrases of, I'm not authorized to order an evacuation, but...
Yeah, and this is why I will never live in an inland state.
Surprise is starting to warm up at 1,350.
Also, Alex says, you lived in Arizona? My condolences.
Look, I spent a good 10 years baking in that desert, and I don't recommend it for a number of reasons. Look, and this is not against anyone living in Arizona, except the people who I would point fingers at. Generally speaking, it is a fascinating population.
Is that what we're calling it?
These are people who are so cooked by hot weather that rain scares them.
Yeah.
I can tell you this. Anytime that it would rain, people would start actually, like, not reacting to it well. They would be like, oh my god, it's raining, I have to zoom home. And so their driving would get more dangerous.
Yeah, because of all the oil that's going to be coming up out of the concrete.
But that's why they start going faster, because they're like, oh no, it's raining, I can't be out in this. And they're like, if they're outside, like walking around, they like immediately seek shelter. And not just like in the normal, oh, it's raining, tee-hee, but in the sense of like, my god, what is this substance falling from the sky? I've never seen it before.
Yeah. I was even going to say, Alex, it reminds me of that one Pro ZD bit where he's like, when it rains in California or in LA, he's like, why is Dasani falling from the sky?
But it is... I think that there are a lot of people who, because they are sunbaked and because of some of the political clashing that happens to come in a state that's right on the border with a lot of high red district population.
Yeah, red from blood loss.
Honestly. But I mean, I'll say this. The most infamous episode of Kitchen Nightmares was in Scottsdale, Arizona.
That absolutely
And you know what?
tracks.
That surprised absolutely no one who lives anywhere near Scottsdale. Anyway, thank you for allowing me this detour. Just like, he handled that very well. Like, this is something fucked up.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, you know, Scottsdale, Mesa, Chandler, you know, that's a pretty good temperatures, but you're surrounded by a lot of heat. I think steel boils at this temperature. So I think Cave Creek is a total loss.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, back to our regularly scheduled programming. So around
And that's at
9:08,
9:08.
I believe.
He can slip up there. He can slip up anywhere.
Okay.
Hey, that looks like New York.
Let's see.
Apple appeal. But you're wrong.
Apple
a TV.
appeal.
But you're wrong.
You're wrong.
Weatherman?
Yeah.
Bobby, are you...
Let's see.
Glass-
There we go.
Well, I guess if he can slip up there, he can slip up anywhere.
Oh
we'll
my
check
God.
with him later.
See, this makes me want to watch The Muppets Take Manhattan.
If you can make it there, you'll make it anywhere.
God, did you ever see that
New
one?
York. No.
Gosh, and that was one of the lesser highlighted Muppet movies where it's. Then again, it also came out during a period where there was kind of an oversaturation of like this movie franchise, but in the big city. TM.
Oh God.
That was just a thing for the longest time.
I mean, I think of like, let's see, there was Babe in the Big City. There was Homeward Bound 2.
There was
Home Alone 2.
There was like, I'm trying to remember which horror movie has Jason Voorhees.
Oh, that's Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th, like Jason Takes Manhattan, I think.
Oh God.
There was that one. There was like Oliver and Company, which was like, a little cat in the big city.
Okay, but I do love that movie.
It was a very good movie, I will say. Why should I worry? Why should I care? Damn. Let's get back to the nostalgia before we get lost in nostalgia.
We'll see forever. Anyway.
My family is obsessed with New York around Christmas time. I mean, it is very bright. I will say that. I must have told this story before, but oh yeah, no, I remember. I specifically told it during one of my Spyro streams. But back when I was very young, my family had a Christmas tradition that was sort of born out of necessity, because I was one of those children who you had a very difficult time getting to actually fall asleep at Christmas Eve, especially when I was very, very young. So what my parents decided to do at the time was to strap me into a car seat and drive out of the little cul-de-sac we lived in at the time, up in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, and drive into the closest town and just drive around all the neighborhoods to look at the Christmas lights. And that became a Christmas Eve tradition where every Christmas Eve, like my parents, my sibling, and I would get in the car and just drive into the nearest town and just look at all the Christmas lights. Back then they would just do it until I fell the fuck asleep, but then it just became the thing for us to do. I mean, bright lights, big city, etc., etc.
Let's keep going.
Yeah.
Cue the soap opera.
The soap opera that is our lives?
I was ready for a lot of things. I wasn't ready for Kermit the Frog to say cue the soap opera.
It's surprising that I was not surprised by it.
Yeah, it really says a lot, doesn't it?
Darling,
Yes, sweetie buns?
I just spoke to Mrs. Goldfarb.
Oh, about my operation?
Hi!
Ah, yes.
Oh, it's monsters!
Actually, we don't like being called monsters. We prefer the term cosmetically challenged.
Oh my God.
So here's, I'm sorry, I know we've literally
No,
only
go
been playing
ahead.
for
I was about to
5
stop for
fucking
my
seconds.
own reasons, but take the mic.
Now, here's the fucking thing that I really fucking hate, and this has been consistent since the whole idea of quote-unquote politically correct language started being circulated, which was actually fairly common through 80s and especially the 90s. The idea of making fun of any kind of language that actually humanizes people who have otherwise been marginalized.
Yep.
This is the case of, oh wow, blue hair and pronouns, huh? This was the 80s/90s equivalent of that. The whole idea of, if you do something that I don't understand and I think that you are inherently funny, then I'm going to make fun of you for having a term that is not a derogatory slur. Like, it's the idea of, hey, please don't call me the R word. And it's like, okay, we'll call you mentally challenged or something along those lines. But you can tell it's like the way that people use woke today.
Yeah.
It's the exact same sort of thing. People use woke in the same sense that they would come up with these little, well, no, we're aesthetically challenged. That kind of condescending, ha 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 ha, we're not actually a marginalized group, but ha ha, we're going to use this language so that you can't demonize us.
Oh, yeah.
And it's that sort of thing where it has the implication that the people who try to change the language that's used around them to something that is more humanizing are trying to get away with some kind of manipulation. That they are, in fact, things like these monsters who are very clearly the slur that they're trying to avoid being called, and they're doing it because they're trying to mess with people.
Yeah.
That's the prevailing attitude and has been for the longest time, so it's not new.
It's just unfortunate.
It's unfortunate that this continues to be the purview of people who are not so marginalized to use the language of marginalization to make fun of the marginalized.
Absolutely. And I was even going to comment that, and funnily enough, this is going back to what is ostensibly another Christmas movie. Do you remember the Gremlins movies?
Yes.
Do you remember how in Gremlins 2, which took place in a TV studio, with every iteration of the movie, there was a segment of the movie that just cut out to other movies that the Gremlins were superimposed into? Like, for the theater run of the movie, like, suddenly the films started to burn out, and suddenly the Gremlins were popping up in, like, various different movies and trailers that were popular at the time. Or for the VHS release, there was suddenly like a cut in the film where the Gremlins were popping up in segments of films that were just getting a home release at the time. This reminds me of that bit where the sort of like Teamster monsters are showing up in different bits in the Jim Henson Hour. Jesus.
I'm sorry.
Speaking of monstrous. Oh my god.
I did that recently with a mutual friend of ours, Boomba, in Caldwell. We were watching other things, and I sneezed like that. We were watching RuPaul.
Yeah, we were watching RuPaul.
Drag Race. And I sneezed, and everyone was like, whoa! And what was the way that Boomba described it? It sounded like someone was, like, dying.
Like getting attacked or something?
And it's so, like, I feel bad about my sneezing.
We love Boomba here.
But it's like, yes. Yes.
Yeah, it always catches people off guard because, like, people, like, see you and hear you, and they always assume, like, you have this sort of, like, not to lean into the meme, but, like, this sort of demure, like, classy way of speaking and addressing everything. And then you do something like a sneeze or belch, and people will just, like, wait, who was that?
Who was that? It's just like, no, that was me. And it's people get genuinely astonished because it's the same thing when, if you only know me from my internet persona, so to speak, and I'm a very articulate person, especially when I can write a script ahead of time, but I'm pretty good at articulating myself otherwise. And then I start swearing when people, like, have pigeonholed me as, like, a mom type, and they're like, whoa, that's illegal.
He's like, whoa, hey.
I was like, whoa, since when are you allowed to do that? And it's just like, look, moms can swear, all right?
Yeah.
We can. Also, I'm not your mom. I've cultivated a little bit of that image, but I think it's more just by accident because I'm always the mom friend. Anyway, a lot of people are startled in the same way, but yes, the belching and the sneezing.
Yeah, it's like, I don't care how many times you've watched me play Lady Dimitrescu. I'm not your mom.
No. But I can be your mommy.
Yep.
But that's an entirely different issue.
Mm-hmm. Well, we got one in, folks.
Ah-da-da.
My word.
That way, you guys got that one for free.
Yep.
You're also gonna have to start figuring out, like, little things that people can actually unlock with their points.
We should. I need to figure something out to that effect.
Yeah, it just little things that you can do. And again, the common ones you've seen, like the posture check, take a sip, etc. Those are common ones. You can also like do like a voice modulator.
Yeah, I also need to work on because I had someone offer recently to make some like some custom emotes, but this was someone who had also been like helping me a lot on some other projects and had a bunch of unexpected new items show up on their plate, and I didn't want to overwork them. So I asked them to put it off for the time being. But I think going into the new year, I'm definitely going to try and spruce up the page a bit, especially now that I'm getting like gifted subs and like all these different things popping up. I'm looking more and more like a legitimate Twitch channel. So
yeah. Anyway,
back to this.
Given yet?
What?
$20. $30 and we'll give you your kid back. Yeah. Wait, we don't have any kids.
$50 or we leave him here.
Brother.
Andre, are you upset about something?
Well, Kermit put that on the air instead of my chickens.
Gonzo, with all due respect, my guy, I don't think there are that many people who want to see your cock on live TV.
Okay. I love how this has actually become... for me, I keep thinking of this. So Game Grumps, they played like this like America's Next Top Model game. There were a number of things. The writing of it is really stupid, including like at one point the model being like, "Oh, Peter, you're so smart and great," and all of this, and they started riffing on that and expanding on it. It's like, I bet the guy who wrote this dialogue was named Peter. And they just wanted to have that written out somewhere. And like they were doing like, "Oh, Peter, you're so sexy." And then Aaron went to, "Peter, what is this?" And like you knew on the tone shift that it's the executive at like the people who made the game being like, "What is this? What is this script you have handed me?"
You know what, Peter's like, "Just let me have this."
But it's like the "Peter, what is this?" And it's like, it's similar to that with like, "Gonzo, what is this?"
Yeah. Like, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed.
I'm like, what fetish are you working into our show?
Yes.
I mean, the answer for Gonzo is chicken.
Yeah, I mean, that's just it. You take a look at the Muppets in general and tell me that it is not an exercise in people's highly repressed fetishes.
Repressed?
Yeah. Gonzo is a true freaking... We've been new. Like, that's why his species is classified as weirdo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Ugh, I can do better than that.
Sure. In charge.
Say, who put Kermit in charge?
I don't know.
Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
Nah.
Neither am I. Nah.
Okay, Digit, stand by with Fozzie Bear. Digit, oh, wait a second.
Excuse me, Kermit.
Just a second, guys. I'll be with you in a minute. Go ahead and cue Fozzie now.
Oh, here it is. The doorway to my...
Also, Gonzo, since the Muppet Babies reboot is canonically non-binary, good for them.
Yeah.
You know? I dig it.
I mean, that they've been non-binary. That's the thing. They were describing themselves like that. It was whenever there was like the classic trope of the two bathrooms, and then there was like a third one that's just exclusively Gonzo.
Oh,
for example.
That's right. And I could be mistaken. And I think Gonzo was either called like a weirdo or an it. I can't remember, but
something like that.
Something to that effect. And I do know that while granted, from my point of view, like using the term "it" in regards to anyone who does not, identify with the gender binary is a little dehumanizing. That's not for me to decide if that's how they want to identify. So
they explained it for but I'm even looking at Gonzo comes out as non-binary on Muppet Babies, but like they were already describing, them that way.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was another descriptor, and I know that takes some adjusting and getting used to, but there are legitimately, in fact, at least one person who goes by it pronouns.
Very true. Because, again, like, it's... Regardless of how, outside observers feel about it, it is not for us to decide how people identify themselves. So...
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, good
it's
on
very
them.
important that they get to determine... Well, it's important that it gets to determine its own pronouns. Right?
Abso-fucking-lutely. Anyway.
Yes.
He must be right in there. The king of TV weathermen, Willard Scott. Oh, my behavior must be dignified, yet casual. Respectful, yet relaxed.
Hi there. Hey, it's the funniest face on television. Except for Gene Shalit, of course.
Oh my god, Gene Shalit. Fuck.
Oh my god.
Do you want to explain this one?
No, I'm not. Let's not. Let's
not
actually
say
not
we didn't.
explain any of this. I don't want to.
Oh my god. We're really showing our age here.
What's he do for you?
Oh, Mr. Scott, sir, I am here to learn how to be a TV weatherman, just like you.
Yeah, it's very flattering, Fozzie. Thank you very much.
See, I've got my very own pointy weather stick here, see?
Right.
And I also have a toupee.
Right.
Yeah, what more could a weather bear need, sir?
I don't think you need much. You're on your way to TV stardom. Pretty soon you'll be getting fruitcakes from your adoring public.
Fruitcake?
I mean, I think bricks are cheaper, but...
Hey, fruitcakes can actually be tasty as long as you, actually follow the recipe and don't let it sit for, months at a time.
Well, given the alcohol content, yeah, I'm sure that's enough to make anyone like it eventually.
Okay. I've had good fruit, I've had good fruitcakes.
I will take your word for it, because I have not.
Pay me here. I live like a king. Would you like a piece?
Oh, yes, sir.
Hey, I got some in here that are real beauts. They're almost like antiques. Maybe $3 or $4 in value.
Wow.
Foz?
Yes?
The lights burn out. Could you do me a favor?
Yeah?
Would you hold the door?
Oh, sure. You mean now? Oh, oh, no, do you have the keys?
Yeah, sure, Foz. I got it right here in my hand.
Don't panic. I'll go get help.
Make it fast, Foz.
Welcome back
There's
to today.
no...
It's time for the weather.
God.
With Fozzie Bear.
Help! Willard! Is that camera on?
It certainly is.
Ah!
God, even the setup of this set here.
And, again, her hair.
The hair, the backdrop.
The earrings.
Yeah. Ah, my word.
Good morning, America.
Watch your language, Fozzie. Now, what were you saying?
Oh, nothing. Nothing except, I am your new weather bear. See, I got my pointy stick and everything.
Well, that's very professional, but isn't that Willard's job?
No. Funny you should ask. Willard could not make it. He told me to take over.
Wait a minute. Where's Willard?
Hi, I'm your new weather bear. And, holy cow.
This goes back to the bit we were addressing earlier. It's like, okay, well, I think this is where steel boils.
I was just looking at this. Delightfully mild.
Yeah, fog.
Look at how things have changed.
Oh, God, yeah.
Because, again, Arctic cold. This has the implication of it being sometime in the fall, actually.
Unseasonably warm. Delightfully
That's the entire...
mild.
Notice how that takes over such a huge chunk of the country? Just basically that has now expanded its borders.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, did you notice how, by the way, Canada is entirely covered by clouds?
Oh, yeah, no.
Isn't that a coincidence?
That's the great ice wall that lets everyone know that the Earth is actually flat.
Dear God.
Also, who the fuck has ever seen fog in Florida outside of a marsh?
I mean, late 80s, man.
Yeah. I'm thinking I suppose Silver could potentially answer that one, but
Do you remember Acid Rain?
God. I mean,
That was a thing.
It was. Still is, depending on where you live, I suppose.
Not as much.
Not as much.
There's
but
actually
still.
been a lot of progress to actually reduce the number of pollutants going into the air that caused acid rain in the first place. So, for all of the doom and gloom about climate change and pollution and all of that stuff, there actually have been some major improvements, including certainly the a hole in the ozone over the I think it was the Arctic,
more or less,
whichever one it was, has actually healed. The one
well,
over
it's
Australia,
healing.
it's healing, but it's largely closed. That's the thing. It's healing. The one in Australia is still there, so obviously be careful. But like, there have been a lot of improvements in terms of like cleaning up the ocean. There have been a lot of advances in terms of being able to properly recycle or actually destroy plastic in such a way that it's not hanging about the way that we don't want it to. There have been some major advancements. It's just that obviously they don't want to talk about those because then we can't be all doom and gloom and get people scared.
Yeah. Then again, give it another 4 years, we'll see where we are in that regard.
I actually even don't really want to joke about what we might be heading into
Fair
soon.
enough. Fair enough.
And I'm kind of directing that in general. It's sometimes you cope with humor, but there are some things that are legitimately like, that's just straight up not funny, unfortunately.
Yeah, let's go back to the funny talking bear for the time being. Take our minds off of the inevitable.
Oh, haha. Well, I guess there's all this white stuff over here. And, oh, what cute little pennants up here. And, there's a giant L over here by Nebraska. Now, all you people in Nebraska, you stay in your homes until we can find a way to get the L out of there, huh?
Unfortunately, Nebraska has always earned several L's over the course of its existence.
It's in a constant state of being a living L.
Yep.
Yeah, well,
that is what that deserved.
Over here, we have a man.
Oh, look, he found that brick I mentioned earlier. Man.
How does a fruitcake repository have an entrance through a weatherman's green screen? Or I guess it would have been blue screen around this point too, huh?
I mean, listen, you're not you when you're hungry. You find a way to get in.
You don't know what I'm like.
God, even the style of hair.
Yeah.
With just the curve around the widow's peak.
Dear Lord. Anyway.
Yeah. Oh, cut out to be a weather bear.
No.
But now hold it. Listen, I found some great stuff in my closet that I think you are going to love.
What?
Take a look at this. A big nose with glasses? Huh?
Yes.
Say the secret word and you win $100.
Is that your right?
Yes.
And a slightly used whoopee cushion.
Oh, my old friend.
But wait a minute. I saved the best for last, baby.
Fozzie, that's how you get pink eye.
I guess you would know.
I wasn't going to say it, but...
Is it a hilarious banana peel?
Now that's funny.
Waka waka.
Waka waka.
Waka waka.
Waka waka.
Waka.
Oh, the scrunchies!
I know.
Oh, man. Okay. I just have to... So, scrunchies are not really much of a thing. They're not, like, completely gone, but they're not nearly as popular as they used to be when I was a kid. It was literally the fashion that everyone had a scrunchie in their hair.
Oh, yeah.
Like, well, I guess every girl, anyway. Scrunchies were considered high fashion as opposed to, like, a low energy, I'm just going to tie my hair up kind of thing.
Yeah.
You had to tie it correctly. You had to have your hair, like, smoothed back as you were wearing a scrunchie. So that gave way to, like, little butterfly hair clips. by the time that I was getting into middle and high school. But God, I remember fucking scrunchies.
Oh, yeah. I mean, maybe it's just a sign of how old I am, but I always just assumed that scrunchies went on. I didn't think they fell out of style. I just assumed that was like the other method besides plain Jane hair ties of tying your hair back.
I mean, here's the thing. They're still around. I'm pretty sure that they're still around. They're just not like mainstream fashion anymore. It used to be a thing, especially towards the late 80s going into the 90s, where you'd wear a scrunchie on your wrist.
Fair enough.
That was actually a fashion statement, as well as, leg warmers and all of that stuff. Those
that
were
and
the
like
80s.
snap bracelets.
Snap bracelets!
The thing that were as fun as they were painful to put on.
Well, yeah. Anyway,
back to the the bubbling coup at play here.
mm-hmm.
Shh. Ready?
Yes. Did you guys want to talk to me about something?
No.
Yes, we do. Cuz, has anyone ever suggested that a few more people should have a hand in running this show?
Well, how do you mean?
Well, letting someone else have a turn.
Well, that's a good idea.
Now, before you eject this out of hand, what did you say?
I think that's a great idea. I don't know why I've never thought of it myself. I could use the time away.
I was going to say, Kermit, you could use a break.
Yeah, honestly. And that's just it. Like, above and beyond all else, like, regardless of the things we that we noticed, or that we noted, rather, Jesus fucking Christ, where, unfortunately, some of the writing suffered from very 80s-isms of making fun of political correctness and here and there. Kermit the Frog himself has always been one of those people who is, I guess, a stand-in for like, okay, no, actually, let's put aside the status quo and take something else into consideration, or let's stand up for the little guy.
Well, and I bet that what this is going to go into is they start to try and take over the show, but all of the responsibilities of making it work start to overwhelm them, and Kermit has to step back in. The reason why a person like Kermit is usually responsible for keeping the hand on the wheel, keeping the lid on the pot, and all of that stuff is because no one else is responsible enough to do it. And let's be fucking real. The people around Kermit ain't exactly what I would call a sane individual.
No, but he's at least enough of a straight man to keep everything else fucking tied together.
And yet, we see that he's not opposed to letting other people have their chance at taking the center stage. It's just that they're not going to be able to do it.
Because that's just it. And like you said, obviously the bit here is that they are going to fuck up in some way, shape, or form and give the reins back to Kermit. But Kermit himself did not start out as the guy in the spotlight. Kermit was just a side character in Jim Henson's first major foray into television, and that was Sam and Friends. And that was essentially just a lead-on into The Tonight Show at the time.
Yeah.
Back in the, I want to say the 50s, early 50s specifically.
Something like that, yeah.
But that's just it. Kermit just so happened to, like, gain notoriety, when Sam and Friends was first airing. And he became the new face of the Muppets.
He embodied the everyman energy.
Essentially, yeah. And that's why his voice was just always kind of the most similar to Jim Henson's himself.
Yep.
He's just like... I hate to say, like, the tofu of the Muppets, and that he sort of, like, has that sort of middle ground in terms of overall sanity. I mean, this is, like, the dude who lives in the swamp and plays the banjo all day long. So
I think that's pretty apt, because here's the thing. Tofu on its own is not necessarily a tasty treat, but it depends on what seasons or other foods you happen to prepare it with.
Yeah. We know a lot about TV. Yeah, it's almost as if we grew up in the 80s and looked along to the shows that raised us.
We know too many things. Please strip us of our knowledge.
Things. Help us.
We have still stared into the eldritch cosmos of media.
Mm-hmm.
And we have been forever shaped by it.
And it blinked back. But yeah, it's almost as if I used to review movies and other forms of media.
It's almost like I want to do that.
Yeah, it's almost as if.
Anyway,
back to media literacy and the lack thereof in today's standards.
Where'd you go?
Oh, well, see that up there?
Yeah.
Doesn't that look nice?
Yeah.
I tell you what, guys. Have fun, keep the ratings up, and don't forget to roll the credits when you're through.
Okay. Bon voyage.
Great!
Yes. 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 Yeah, Leon. Leon. What do we do now?
Oh, oh, this is great. Peace and quiet.
Live from Kokomo. You were raised on Nickelodeon and Toonami. Well, to be fair, so were we. It's just that we were also raised on other channels as well, and have since done a lot of history on the shows we grew up with, or done a lot of research on the history of the shows we grew up with. God damn,
I was primarily Nickelodeon myself.
Yeah, I was raised in a privileged household where we were spoiled for choice. We had Cartoon Network, Disney Channel, Nickelodeon. So basically, I had access to like the major networks at the time, and so.
Hey, this is a curious thought. Just out of nowhere, do you know where the term Nickelodeon actually comes from?
I'm trying to remember specifically, but what didn't it have something to do with I could be fucking way off base here, but didn't it have something to do with the French Renaissance of like art? I could be way fucking off. Maybe I'm thinking of something else.
I mean, yep, Alex got it. So what it is that
okay.
It's an early movie theater that only charged an admission price of about 5 cents. So here's the thing. The reason why that became a thing is because it was a way of people who lived this, especially I think this was prominent in the 30s. And I wonder why people in the 30s would need low-cost entertainment.
That's right, Nickelodeon theaters. That's what it was.
And so you pay a nickel, you go in. That's where popcorn started to become really popular because it was a cheap and easy to make food. Obviously, things have changed since then, but that's where popcorn became a lot more popular, as well as like peanuts, because they were low-cost harvestable foods.
Yeah, you know what it was? I think I got fucking mixed up because I was thinking of cartoons and I thought of Michelangelo, and then I realized, oh yeah, that was the connection to like Ninja Turtles and the base of their names. That's why I was thinking like, you know, like classic artists.
And I don't think that they actually kicked you out. Like, you paid the 5 cents admission to get in there, and then you can just stay there. I'm pretty sure they didn't start kicking you out until later. So Nickelodeon naming itself the way that they did is I'm guessing trying to invoke the idea of low-cost, affordable entertainment.
Probably.
And then aim that at kids. But it still, it could easily just be because they thought it was a funny word.
I mean...
But it's actually fascinating. And then, of course, now most people, when you mention Nickelodeon, they think of the fucking channel.
They do. And it's funny to mention that as well, because like Nickelodeon would go on to have like various like sub-channels for like for very specific demographics. You had Nick Jr. with like, you know, the very young kids shows. You had Nickelodeon, which is for like the
Saturday Night Nick. Snick.
Yeah. And then you had Nick at Night, which had a lot of like black and white sitcoms.
Yeah.
And even then, that leans a little closer to the original meaning behind it than Nickelodeon theaters. And I'm not 100% certain, but I think maybe one of the first instances of me reading about Nickelodeon theaters, because now that you mentioned it, I think I have heard about that backstory to it before, was when I was reading A Confederacy of Dunces. And the main character, whose name escapes me unfortunately, had a habit of like frequently attending like cheap theaters and watching movies there. Which, funnily enough, I would argue that the protagonist, quote unquote, of A Confederacy of Dunces was probably a good sort of. Basically, he would have fit the archetype for like early aughts media critics, where he's someone who watches a lot of like movies and considers himself an expert, but really he doesn't know jack from shit.
So, mid to late aughts internet media reviewers.
Yeah. Did you ever hear about the curse of Confederacy of Dunces?
No.
Well, it's a book that's many people over the years have been trying again and again to make movie adaptations of. In fact, I think at one point Will Ferrell was lined up to play the leading role in a movie adaptation of it. Unfortunately, every time people have tried to make an adaptation of it, something has gone horrifically wrong that has resulted in like multiple instances of death and property damage, and it's just never taken off the ground because of that. It's one of those fascinating aspects of like film and like literature history that like I mean, obviously it delves into whether or not you believe in the legitimacy of like curses or not, but it's still funny to look at these patterns popping up when it comes to like people trying to make it's odd. It's like the whole thing of like not saying the name of a Scottish play before any given stage performance, you know? It's like superstition based off of like unfortunate like coincidences or patterns that have popped up, and you sort of like, even if you don't like buy into there being an actual like paranormal explanation for it, it's still fascinating from the perspective of like history and wanting to like distance yourself as much as you can from any given like name when it comes to specific works of fiction like that. I think the Infinite Jest is also considered cursed because no one adapts that. That's also possible. Not sure if I'm personally as familiar with that particular work.
Alright.
Yeah, alright. Anyway.
Ooh, what a beautiful spot. Isn't this a beautiful spot? This is a beautiful spot. Look at that water, and that sand, and that water. I wonder how the gang is doing.
People! There is no need to panic. Now, Leon, you take over Gonzo's responsibilities.
What?
Gonzo, you take over my job.
I didn't know I had responsibilities.
Yes, and I will take over Mr. Kermit's. Now, the first thing I think we should do is...
Oh, no, you don't.
What?
A job like this requires artistic vision.
Well,
Thank
I
you,
have
Leon.
that. And...
Yeah.
As my first decision, chickens on roller skates.
No! No. Well, listen. We have to do something. They're watching.
We are.
Always watching.
And we're judging you.
Severely.
And
Bean,
harshly.
I know what you've been doing. You need to do a better job of hiding your search history, my guy.
If memory serves, a lot of weird shit went on in the framing of
Annabelle.
Oh, yeah. I love whenever there's like... Well, I'll say this. People are more prone to looking at disturbing incidents or unfortunate, like accidents or things that lend to the idea of something being cursed.
Yeah.
When the movie being filmed deals with, like, superstitious stuff. Now, I'm not saying that some movies have, unfortunately, very cursed productions. I think Poltergeist is an example of, now that shit was literally just fucking cursed.
Yeah. I mean, given the subject matter.
But that's what I mean, is, first of all, that's why you don't, this and The Exorcist are reasons why you don't fuck with Ouija boards, by the way. Don't fuck with the door to the afterlife. I'm just saying, it's just good practical advice.
Welcome, Carl.
I can call the... Oh, hi! While I lay me down to sleep, I lurk. Can call it Warren Hex. So, but anyway.
But yeah, I also just think in that same vein, it's genuinely kind of hilarious. Like, obviously, this you don't want to poke too much fun at instances where people are actually dying or getting hurt, and I do want to clarify that. But I just think it's kind of macabrely hilarious when, like, the production of something as, like, not inherently tied to paranormal activity or just, like, the great beyond as a confederacy of dunces has so much of a checkered history to it in terms of the production of adaptations. It's like if every time someone tried to make an adaptation of Lamb Chop Sing Along, there were, like, some sort of, like, plague released or something to that effect. It's just like, I don't know, there's something inherently humorous about something like that. It's like when I think of, for anyone who watched Halloween, Season of the Witch, and you had such inherent fear tied to that one silver shamrock theme. You know, the theme in and of itself isn't inherently scary, but knowing what's tied to it, it gives you that sense of dread.
Yeah. Often it's when you anticipate that something is scary or you associate something with scary, you are going to have an unconscious bias towards seeing scary things as even scarier. Like, is it really a coincidence that the lead role of this, the actor in the lead role of this movie went on to, you know, have, you know, like a horrific accident that maimed them, etc.?
Yeah, exactly. Alex says you don't want to know how many blood curses are unleashed every time there's a new Barney show.
Right. Well, we've been going for almost 2 hours and we've only watched 16 minutes of this show.
Don't worry about it.
Not to hustle us along, per se, but...
Digit's the one who put stuff on.
Well, where is Digit?
He's on roller skates. God damn it.
Yep.
Wait until you're in your new
Oh,
suit.
God.
Oh, God.
Everyone's gonna have to listen to you.
I'm sorry, but I can't take any more questions because I've got to go shopping for a big date tonight.
Hey, Boots, what goes?
Can't you tell? I've zinged into a whole new thing. Now I'm Bootsy for president. I come with my own Oval Office and a 4-year supply of swingy Bootsy outfits that take me from war room to ballroom.
Remember how silly it used to be that women could ever be president because they'd clearly be too ditzy? And I'm sorry, this is actually literally a thing.
Yeah.
Never mind the infamous examples of, like, you know, if a woman were to take the presidential office, you know, she would send us to war because she's having her period. It's a blah, 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 blah. The same kind of idea that women are, in fact, vacuous and incapable of taking such an important job seriously. And it's like, I think we've blown that completely out of the water in terms of expectations for who can hold the office of president.
And yet that's probably
Regardless-
why a woman lost this time around.
Well, we know why the woman lost.
Yeah.
And it's not just because she's a woman. Though that probably had a huge hand in it.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
we
I'm going to
also
say
lost
it's unfortunately
because-
because a group of people decided that a woman is wholly unqualified.
I think it's because people were never going to be dissuaded from voting for the person that they voted for. There was no way a death cult like that would vote for anyone other than the leader of that death cult.
Who, funnily enough, in all his plastic grandiose, like, I'm sorry, just have to point it out. The Ken analog here in this particular shot is not too terribly far from the overall depiction, I would say, of just the degree of fabricated reality that goes into keeping the shambling corpse of our current president-elect up and about.
Yeah. Anyway.
See, with you as president, swingy your nation.
Oh.
Calm down, man.
Anyway.
Brad, be serious for a second. This is the highest office of America. It's almost more important than being a high fashion model.
Once again.
Again, there are things that don't age well.
Really don't age well. Including that fashion.
Okay, but I think it's still cute. I think that's still a look.
Fair enough.
Boots,
What'll I do while you're rushing to meetings with Soviet leaders?
I thought that.
Soviet leaders. I mean, we've said it once again. Like,
Ooh.
there's a reason I am calling these reactions time capsule TV.
Okay, but this actually does. This is like a complete and total veer. What is that movie called? It's like The Day After Tomorrow. That actually might be something worth reacting to.
I'm trying to remember. Was that one of the... Was that a zombie movie, or...
Oh, no, that's not the one that I was thinking of. No, it's a nuclear
Okay, no,
movie.
wait. I remember there was also one... Because I think The Day After Tomorrow was the one where the Earth freezes over.
Yeah, that's that one. It did have... I think it had... Tomorrow in its title, but it's like... Okay, there's Last Island, Failsafe... The Day After, that's what it is.
Okay.
The Day After. So I just added an extra word. I was actually wrong. Tomorrow is the only one that's not in the movie title.
Let's see. What's funny is New York experienced the cold that hit them in The Day After Tomorrow. I mean, funnily enough, if I understand correctly, wasn't that also the plot of the newest Ghostbusters movie? Like, a ghost just makes everything freeze to death in New York, specifically?
I wonder why we might be experiencing some anxiety about this, just like in 1983, people were experiencing anxiety over the possibility of a nuclear strike.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that it might be interesting to do a reaction to that at some point.
Yeah, again, there's a lot of things that we can put on the table, but for now, let's get back to Brad here before he melts completely.
You can be vice president.
Me? Would I be any good at it?
You'd be perfect.
What would I do?
Nothing.
Well, you could stand behind the podium.
Okay, I can do that.
I mean, once again, spot the difference. I'm just saying.
Uh-huh.
My fellow Americans, this proves what my grandmother always said. In this country, anyone can become vice president.
If you have the right luck.
Oh, that's what we need. A president.
I hate.
Terrific. I pick me.
No, you have to vote.
I hate that it's still relevant.
Okay,
Yeah.
vote for me.
Gee, I wonder how Kermit's doing.
Vote for you. We can do that.
Chapter 1. Tadpole Days. My earliest memory... how could I have envisioned the long journey ahead? Maybe I'll just play solitaire. I wish I had
Writing
some
be
cards.
like, though.
Yeah. Yeah, as someone who's dealt with more than his fair share of creative slumps, I can also confirm. Ah, man.
Perhaps the handsomest should be in charge.
No, brother.
The form of
You are
government
so
is
arrogant.
irrelevant unless you have a mandate from the people.
Hey, you know a great form of government?
Huh?
Presenting His Royal Highness Prince Bean. As for my first princely decree, let it be story time.
Oh my god.
Unfortunately, the royalty...
Very long...
Go ahead.
Royalty continues to ruin everything.
It does. Whether they're figureheads or not. Anyway.
A kingdom that wasn't a kingdom at all. I mean, they had a king, but he wasn't really... Look, let's start this over.
I mean, they just described Great Britain.
You know?
Okay. So, once upon a time, very long ago, there was a kingdom without a king. It had been so many years since anyone cared about having a king that he'd gone on to something else. Now he worked as a hat sharpener. Meanwhile, all the people of the kingdom went about their business very much their own boss, until one day a stranger came into the hat sharpening shop.
All done.
Thank you.
Next, I have been told there is a king here that sharpens the hats. Oh, that's me. Oh, what are you doing here?
So
when
many
there's
things.
The kinging to be done.
I mean...
That have aged so well.
Yeah. Also... I mean, do I have to point out the joke?
That's what I'm saying, right?
Yeah. I mean,
That's
also
literally what's...
green skin, weird ears, brown vest, tan shirt, fantasy setting.
Oh, okay, yeah, your parallel does have many layers to it.
Yeah. Much like a certain ingredient you're allergic to.
Don't. I'm allergic to you invoking my allergies.
Yeah. So am I, apparently. That's how I got food poisoning.
I don't even fucking know, man. Your stomach just decided that a basic group of food, which is like literally the simplest as you can possibly get it, was poisonous.
That's why I get
your
for being
body
35.
decided. Your body decided that it was poison.
I guess so. I mean, given the fact that allergies can just randomly change at given points throughout your life.
Generally, yeah, they can accelerate.
Yeah.
Like for me, I'm discovering that might be the case with tomatoes.
Yeah.
Lactose intolerance is another example of something that you can be fine with. And then if you go for a while without actually eating anything that has lactose in it, and then you eat something with lactose in it, you will be sick.
Yeah. Isn't it fun playing the genetic lottery with your diet?
Well, in that case of anything with lactose, literally we're supposed to stop eating anything with lactose.
Yeah, we're not supposed to be eating anything with lactose. We're not supposed to be eating anything with spice. We're just kind of like masochists that way.
Yeah. Anyway.
We haven't done that king stuff around here for years. I'm kind of forgotten what it's all about.
Oh, you're nuts?
What?
Don't you realize people must be told what to do?
Hey.
You have been given a responsibility to act kingy.
What?
Yes, you know, wear the colorful clothes and put the big thing on the head and make what you call them, the proclamations.
What? Do you really think I should?
Oh, yeah, you have a moral responsibility to lead. Now, sharpen my point, Bitter.
Oh, yes, sir.
That night, in the privacy of his small dungeon apartment with exposed brick walls, the king thought over the stranger's words.
My moral obligation to lead. What did he say I needed?
The big thing on the head, the colorful clothing, and the proclamations.
Yeah, okay. Why not?
And so, the very next day, the king put on some colorful clothing, put a big thing on his head, and set out to make some proclamations.
I proclaim...
Me on a Tuesday.
Herewith, vacations for animals.
I
Okay.
mean, give dogs the right to vote and I'm all in.
Well.
And, more melted cheese on things. And how about, forthwith, all that feet shall be referred to as... Eric!
Hey, King.
Yes?
You're standing on my Eric.
I love that the hat is completely... The hat is completely detached from the king's head.
Oh yeah, like you can tell there's like it definitely had a few spotters wearing like blue or green clothing keeping it up.
Oh yeah.
The people of the kingdom decided, and the king moved back into the long empty palace, and people began to work as slaves and serfs and peasants, and everyone lived happily ever after. Until one day they blew it all up.
Viva la revolution! I mean, the parallels write themselves, folks.
My God!
Well, once again, let it never be said that the Muppets were not ahead of their time. If only it were that easy. It can if you're not. It can be if you're not a coward.
Look. Oh. what is it? Deny, dispose, depose?
I mean,
whatever it was. It can be that easy if you're not a coward. I don't think, however,
the 5th
that
of November.
I don't think that violence should, in fact, be the go-to. However, if it does, in fact, I mean, okay, and I'm going to make this perfectly clear. I literally do not condone violence. I do not condone political violence.
Deny, defend, depose. That's it.
Deny, defend, depose. That's correct. Okay. But it is interesting that the same day that there was an assassination of the CEO of a health insurer, in fact, like the biggest one, people who were on a wait list to get approved for things suddenly got approved for things.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people who were in a position where they were helpless against their approval or denying of their health care found themselves suddenly not being given as much reason to be upset with the state of their health care.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
now, again, it should not be this way. It should not be something violence causing any kind of solution, and it didn't actually, because again, the things that need to change are systemic.
Oh yeah.
However, it certainly sent a message, didn't it?
It really did. And again, we also want to apply, like, with this whole matter of, like, the issues in healthcare, or at least some of the issues in healthcare magically becoming less severe following this quote-unquote unfortunate loss. As someone who firmly believes in the scientific method, I need to reiterate that correlation does not always imply causation. However, sometimes you need to further investigate these matters, and certain experiments require repetition.
As well as a control group.
Exactly.
That said, like...
That's all we will say on record.
I will say that the other thing that I think also really left a message and impression with people was that no one was playing the thoughts and prayers game with the CEO's death.
Yeah.
As soon as it became announced, the most popular emoji by a tremendous margin was the laughing, crying emoji. There was no sympathy. There was no pity.
The insulin flow.
His family does not deserve being laughed at, but his death does.
Yeah.
It's literally a case of, like, and the manifesto was, very concise and to the point. It was literally saying, like, look, this was something that I knew needed doing, and so I did it, and here are the reasons why. I don't really have to explain it because we all know, don't we?
I think my favorite part about this whole thing is the fact that near the site where everything supposedly went down, all they found was a backpack full of Monopoly money.
It's so fucking on the nose, and I love it.
It really is.
And, yes, when the beating of our hearts echoes the beating of the drums, there is a life about to start when tomorrow comes.
Yep.
Will you give all you can give so that our matter may advance? Anyway,
just a reminder that just because we live in a society where things are the way they are, doesn't mean they have to be.
Doesn't mean that they have to stay that way. There are many ways to make things happen.
Indubitably.
Violence should not be the first option, but if you take away every other option...
Exactly.
As it was said, the riot is the voice of the unheard.
Indubitably. Anyway, back to everything blowing up.
Alone. Yes.
Point. Just like that fairy tale.
Actually, it was more of an allegory.
I think we should vote.
Hey, how many people
Fairy
think
tales
voting
are
is a
allegories.
dumb idea?
Any fairy tale that's not an allegory is not a fairy tale.
I mean, depends on whether or not Disney's have their hands on it.
No, okay, Disney actually does do that with it. Like, okay, all right. Like, people don't give it enough credit. But the movie for Peter Pan, done by Disney, actually does have an important allegory at play. That's the reason why Hook is also voicing... The guy who plays Hook also voices their father.
Oh, yeah.
It is very much a case of talking about the relationship of kids to their parents and how it is important to engage with your kids.
Oh, yeah. That's an inherent part of the story. That Captain Hook was always an allegory for the father figure.
And... again, just in general, fairy tales are always an allegory. And yes, that includes the Disney variations, or at least it used to. Not so much nowadays, and that is really the unfortunate thing. Disney used to be really good at this. There's a reason why Little Mermaid really took off the way that it did. And why the Disney Renaissance took off the way that it did.
Mm-hmm.
And why... the very unfortunate reality of The Hunchback of Notre Dame being so completely underrated despite it being a fucking masterpiece.
Well, that's because Disney took the wrong message behind what happened with Robin Williams and the genie.
Yeah. Well, regardless. Anyway.
Actually, it was more of an allegory.
People think that voting is a dumb idea.
Gonzo!
Where you going?
Oh my god.
Oh, well, nothing
This-
personal, guys.
This
Yeah.
this is an allegory for this recent election
I was
season.
going to say, like, no
Who
matter
thinks
how many
voting is
times we try
dumb?
and sweep it aside, we're not escaping the parallels here.
And it's been a case, it's been a problem for a while, clearly.
God.
Miss Kermit. So long.
Wait for me.
Okay, not to pause immediately again,
Uh-huh.
but I want to point out, Gonzo's delivery there was actually really good.
Oh yeah, no, like, here's the thing. We will poke fun at the Muppets and a lot of, like, the jokes behind them, but, like, even during the most goofy and dismissible bits the Muppets have put forward, by and large, the voice acting behind the actual cast has been on fucking point, whether they've been played up for laughs or meant to represent very serious moments.
So just having that moment of, I miss Kermit so long.
And that's just it. Like, Gonzo, like, throughout his history has always been a very sort of, I don't want to say pitiable character, but a sympathetic character where, like, even during his more, like, out-of-pocket moments, you feel that a lot of what he is saying and doing comes from a place of just genuinely wanting happiness and to do good by others, even if it's in a very misguided way.
I think there's a reason why a lot of people who find themselves ostracized by larger society also tend to latch onto Gonzo as a character.
Yeah.
Because I say he,
They.
they are someone who is frequently kind of made the butt of the joke because they're weird.
Yeah.
And, you know, that is something that people latch onto. Like, there's a reason why Phantom of the Opera has the kind of fandom that it does.
Oh, absolutely.
There's a reason why we keep telling variations of Beauty and the Beast, because truly, what makes someone a beast? What makes someone evil? You know?
Yeah.
Anyway.
But
Gonzo definitely, yeah, sorry,
I was gonna say.
had that real loneliness in there.
Yeah.
Gonzo!
Where you going?
Oh, well, nothing personal, guys, but I miss Kermit. So long.
Wait for me.
Oh boy.
Guys! Gonzo!
Hi!
Vicky!
Hi.
Hey, why aren't you guys running the show?
Oh, well, we left.
We set fire to
Mind
it.
if we hang out with you?
Oh, look, you're all here.
We all left.
I skedaddle. It's cuter.
Oh, this is fantastic. Hey, but how did the show turn out? Did you do a good closing number?
God, I'm sorry.
Well, actually,
Yes.
this is, again, why Kermit is a likable character.
Oh, yeah.
He's sometimes a little naive. He's not wholly naive. There's a lot of bitter cynicism in him, too. But
I mean, that's just it. Like, Country Frog in the Big City, he has very, like, simplistic ideals. Ideologies.
But, like, he sees them showing up here, and he's not, wait, what are you doing here? Why aren't you running the show? He goes, oh, hey!
Yeah.
It's great to see you guys. I've missed you. Like, like, he has that very warm reception, and it's just like, so how did things go with the show?
Well, that's...
And when...
Go ahead.
Why aren't you doing this? And he's not asking it, like, accusatorily. He's asking, like, genuinely, it's a little strange that you're not here. Is everything okay? I love that in terms of his personality.
Oh, yeah. And that's just it. Like, Kermit is another one of those figures, like, throughout media history that he will have his points of frustration. He will have his moments of, like, anger and outrage and just sheer confusion at the state of things. But above and beyond everything else, he puts his found family first.
He loves first and foremost. And so that when Kermit does reach a boiling point,
yeah,
it's something serious.
Oh, absolutely.
To the closing number.
What?
Well, to be honest with you, sir, we couldn't figure out how to run the show.
Oh, running the show is easy. Watch. Cue the closing number.
He makes it seem so easy.
Oh, God.
We may need to,
Yeah, one moment. Alright, back to Kevin MacLeod.
For you.
My word.
Aww.
Oh, yeah. But, the Muppets with the realistic faces. I mean, that's just it. Like, I mentioned before that, like, Jim Henson's works rarely get into the genuinely, like, Uncanny Valley territory for me personally, unless they're depicting more human-looking characters. And, like, when you have characters like Digit, that's starting to get into it, but because of, like, how far removed Digit is supposed to be from, like, an actual human being, it doesn't get to me as much.
This is actually very sweet.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know that it's a normal commercial song.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Listen.
Whoa!
Damn.
Hang the fuck! Okay, never mind. This is not so cute anymore.
Listen, they're just having a good time,
They're not.
Yeah, Clifford is like, yeah, I know what you're searching up right now. You didn't know Camilla had that many hits on Rule 34, did you?
Shut the fuck! Aw. Legitimately, that was so...
Oh, yeah.
It's celebrating on Kermit's end.
Oh, yeah.
That they've come here to get him, rather than, they didn't know how to do it. He goes, oh, okay, you didn't know how to do it? Well, I know how to do it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
That's why he's the leader.
Why did people think the Muppets were always a wholesome franchise? Well, that's because people often associate things like puppetry and cartoons with children's entertainment, and thus it has to be wholesome or child-friendly. Like, once again, Leon, my guy. For sure Gonzo has a few choice words for you. Also, Digit, never put your keyboard on sand. That's going to fuck this. As someone who used to play a keyboard professionally, that just gets under my skin. To an extent I can't really put into words.
So you're saying that you're low-key irritated?
Fuck off. Just for that, I'm playing the Curb Your Enthusiasm music. Fuck you.
Alright, number's over.
Okay. Thank you again, Kevin MacLeod. Alright, I think this is probably going to be where we get to the actual storyteller segment of the show.
Given that we're exactly halfway through?
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing about sand. It's rough and coarse and gets everywhere.
Don't you fucking...
I'm sorry, am I irritating you like sandpaper?
We've already talked our ears and everyone else's ears off on like one franchise that people have like mischaracterized over generations. We don't need to delve into that one.
Yeah, it only took 2 hours to cover 30 minutes of the show.
Yeah, funny that. Funny fucking that.
And now John Hurt as the storyteller with The Soldier and Death.
Okay.
Yep.
So thematically, this is probably all about leadership.
What's in your bag? I can smell biscuits.
Imagination.
Let me see.
Imagination.
Things in this bag. And besides, I need those biscuits for my story.
Well, tell your story, then we can eat them. Is it an old story?
Ancient.
Oh my god, that's...
Yep.
Oh god, what's the character in Labyrinth, the gnome friend?
Oh god, yeah.
That's that voice actor.
You know, I wouldn't be surprised.
I know that it is. He's using the same tone.
Oh yeah, no, like the voice actors associated with Jim Henson were very much recycled throughout all his productions.
Like most directors, they usually have the same pool of people that they work with.
Oh yeah, like how like oh god, I can't remember his name.
Well, there's Tim Burton with like Helena Bonham Carter and Johnny Depp.
And Johnny Depp. I was even thinking of the guy who played Hellboy and Hannibal Chow from
Pacific Rim.
From Pacific Rim, yeah. What is that actor's name?
Good lord, I hate that we have this kind of memory problem.
Exactly. He was also the voice of the Lich from Adventure
Ron
Time.
Perlman.
Ron Perlman, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely appreciate you, Alex. But yeah, Ron Perlman is essentially that to Guillermo del Toro.
Yep. Well, and
he was also a tree and chowder. Why am I not surprised?
there's Sean Bean as well as someone else for fucking Kojima.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Hideo Kojima.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Stale biscuits, then. Ugh.
It begins 1,000 miles from anywhere. After 20 years of war with a soldier, an honest soul with nothing but a shilling in his pocket and 3 dried biscuits for the long trudge home. This was his regiment, the Royal Hussars. Oh, yes,
Which I stole
1,000 miles the soldier marched, whistling his tuneless whistle, and he spent his shilling and was down to the 3 dried biscuits when one day he comes across an old beggar. And the soldier stopped and joined in with the beggar's fiddle. The one couldn't fiddle, the other couldn't whistle, and quite happy they both were.
A merry tune.
Is it worth a farthing?
More. No, I can give you nothing. I do have a biscuit you can have.
Then you're a good man, Father, and I'll thank you.
Go on, eat.
You're a good man who deserves a better whistle.
And off the soldier went and took up with his tuneless tune, but funny, peculiar, and strange indeedy. He had a whistle like... Imagine what rubies would sound like if they whistled. And he kept it up all the way down the road until he met another old boy down in his lock and ward at the edges. And this old man, he played knick-knack on his drum. And the soldier stood and whistled his ruby whistle and did a little jig in his weary boots, a stumble and a hopping. And then he swaps a second biscuit.
You'll have to forgive us for not speaking over this as frequently as the others. Like, this is just like captivating storytelling.
It is. It's really good.
Yeah.
It's setting up that sense Yes, Mads Nicholson.
Yes.
That's the name.
But then again, small wonder Jonathan fucking Hurt being a good storyteller.
Well, it's not even just a good storyteller. Like, this is, again, it's simplistic enough language that anyone can understand it.
Oh, yeah.
But you can already see the layers are coming in. Again, the acts of kindness earning him some sort of reward, and the things that can end up stacking.
Oh, yeah.
As a result. Like, improving the whistle, allows him to help others more with, that whistle.
Yeah, it's like that old, like, I say old, but like that Macaulay Culkin movie, Paying It Forward. Was that Macaulay Culkin? I can't quite remember.
No, that was Haley Joel Osment.
You're right. Thank you very much. God, my memory is dog shit. But yeah, the Haley Joel Osment movie, Pay It Forward, where this kid just comes up with a philosophy of like helping other people like without them doing anything for you beforehand, and that just puts out more good into the world. And it's an old concept, just, it's gone by different names over the years. And this is a good demonstration of, like, even if you're down on your luck, just a small act of kindness to someone else who is also in similarly dire straits can just improve things for yourself and others in ways you wouldn't imagine.
There's also the sense, there's a lot of different ways that story can go. On the positive side of things, it's people respond to that kindness by creating more kindness. But there's also the variation of the fool who continuously helps others and others simply come to take advantage of them.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like this is actually a middle ground where this soldier, this person with the biscuits, is going to run into people who take advantage of him for his kindness. My bet is he's going to show a little bit more cunning in the end.
Because
that people mistake his kindness for stupidity.
Yeah, because I was even going to say, like, for characters like that fit the archetype of the fool in various, like, works of fiction, oftentimes the fool is just playing the fool. Like, he's actually a lot more cunning and intelligent than people give him credit for, yet he still chooses to, like, play himself up as a joke and to do random acts of kindness. But you cross him one step too far, that kindness can easily be revoked in a way you could not imagine. Like,
True.
I think even... Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think even of fucking Luffy from One Piece, who, like... he's not exactly what anyone would call a tactical genius, but he knows enough to realize, like... Yeah, he can take a joke, he can, have people pick on him. The moment you fuck around just the wrong way... kindness is going to be fucking revoked.
I'll even say, so there's even a difference between the likes of someone who's playing the role of the fool, but is not truly, and a genuine fool-type character. A fool, in terms of, like, say, the tarot influence, and obviously I've made a whole video about this kind of thing before,
Oh, yeah.
But the idea of this character is that they manage to go through their life completely carefree and behaving only on their base instinct. And that's why Luffy does fit that role. And as well as like early Steven Universe, Sailor Moon. This not means that they're incapable of growth. It does not mean that they are incapable of tragedy. But it does mean that they are more likely to act on their instinct as opposed to thought and logic and
Yeah, I apologize, Lore. You are cutting out to the point where we cannot hear you.
Yeah. You also went a little robot-y for me.
Oh, fun. Oh, well. Well, my stream ended.
Ah, we had a blip, didn't we?
We did. And it won't let me start streaming again.
There was a network error. Please try again.
Yep. Start streaming. It won't let me start streaming. Oh, boy. Start streaming. I keep trying to hit it. It will not do that.
You might need to close OBS.
Fun. That means I'll have to stop the recording.
Yeah.
Yeah, well.